Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is Monday and not Friday, which is not my usual day. Yes, this is a live video and not an edited one, and I apologize for that. But you might be able to tell from the setting behind me that I have moved and therefore have been slowly unpacking and stuff, and I cannot for the life of me find the charger for my camera still. So that's a thing I'm going to need to buy when I have some spare change, but at the moment I don't, so I might just have to do live videos until then. Also, I'm already about a month late with this video because I've been dealing with moving and all of that stuff, and that made it difficult for me to talk about stuff online. But I need to talk about the books that I read for the Stephen King Readathon because that was super fun and I enjoyed it. I only finished two Stephen King books. The first of which was a reread, and the second of which was one of the collections of short stories that I had with me. So no, I still have not finished 11/22/63, but I did get a bit farther into it. So there is that. I was reading it. I just didn't finish it. It's over 1,000 pages, guys. That one's gonna take me a little bit of a while. But I did reread The Shining, and by that I mean I listened to the audiobook of The Shining on my way back and forth to work. Super duper duper enjoyed it that way. I think that the reader did a really good job. Again, disclaimer, I listened to audiobooks sped up, so it was a little bit chipmunky. So I might not be able to talk about the atmosphere that the audiobooks have quite so well. But this especially wasn't bothersome to me, seeing as I'd already read the book, so I knew I wasn't missing any plot elements. It was just really to listen to the story again. And I think as an audio book, it's really compelling because a lot of the horror had to do with sort of stopping and listening and these very vivid scenes, which when acted out in your ears in a way, but you still get to visualize it however you want. I think it's actually a really great way to take in that story and feel like you're a part of it, but not not the Kubrick film, which changed some stuff, which is also good, but good in a different way. So yes, obviously The Shining is one of the staple Stephen King books that people recommend to you, and it's one that I had owned the audio of for a long time but hadn't listened to. So I did listen to it on my ride, and I enjoyed it again. It was really great. The second book that I finished was Skeleton Crew, which is the older collection of short stories of his that I had. I believe it came around in the 80s. If I'm not wrong, it's a collection that starts with the novella The Mist, which I think out of everything I've read in that collection was my favorite. The Mist was definitely a standout, and I would have read more set in that world. I understand why it was, as short and small as it was, because it was really just this one sort of contained scene of all of these people trapped in a grocery store. But it tried to tackle this existential dread, this thing that people do, which is to rally around weirdos and also sort of create an us versus them mentality, and also to deny things that are pretty straight up in our front of our faces. So that was definitely interesting. Also dealt with a child in an adult man trying to protect that child, just like The Shining did. As far as the other stories in that collection go, some of them were more standout than others. A lot of them had sort of the phrase "do you love" interwoven within them, and I found that like an interesting thread of this question, not who do you love or what do you love, but just do you love, full stop. And that was an interesting sort of revisiting of theme, I guess. It was like an interesting theme to have throughout the stories. I think the one that I remember most vividly and I found like super horrific was called The Dock. I'm not positive that that's the actual story. It might be The Raft. It's just a story about 4 college kids who ride out to a lake and swim to like this raft type thing in the middle of it, but then this weird dark mass keeps following them around and won't let them leave. And I'm not going to get super specific, but it's a very graphically gory story, full on like physical horror, and the imagery in that one stuck with me, even though it was one of the shorter ones in there. The one about the monkey, it's a story about like cymbal clapping monkey, which we all know that visual. But this one's a cymbal clapping monkey of doom. Was also one that I remember quite vividly and really enjoyed, and felt like a Stephen King short story. Like that one, I think out of all of them was like very trademark. Stephen King had very trademark Stephen King story arc elements to it. So it's definitely one to read if you just want to read like a particular short story. Overall, I really enjoyed the collection. I read it over a couple of sittings, like an hour at a time, dipping in and out, reading either like one short story or a couple, depending on the size of them, right? Because like The Mist took me a while because it's the first third of the book on its own, and then there were short stories that were a couple of pages and short stories that were like 40, 50 pages. So going in and out of it was actually really helpful for me because it meant that I felt like I was progressing, which is always something that I struggle with, especially with really long books. I like literally read more when I'm getting to the end of a book and like I physically have fewer pages at the end. And that's hard with Stephen King because he has such long stories. I am still enjoying 11/22/63. I hope to finish it before the year ends. That's my goal, is before we hit 2018. If I can finish 11/22/63. My mom also wants to read it, so I have this added incentive of if I can finish it and hand it off to her, that would be great. But I'm also mildly panicking because my reading challenges are not the best at the moment. Like I need to work more on those as well, and there's only 2 months left because October is almost over. But I'm in a house. Well, an apartment. We have it for the next year, so I have this sort of stable, safe environment. Behind the camera, there is approximately 20 Barnes & Noble shipping boxes filled with books, but I don't have the bookcases to put them back in. But when I do, I might be able to film in front of those. I've been reading a bunch. I've been picking up a couple of books, so I might do like a wicked short book haul. If you did not know, I have been blogging again, and I've been focusing my blog on kids lit and discussing just in general things going around children's books, whether it's advice or discussions of genre, discussions of certain things. Like for Banned Book Week, I talk about some of the kids' books that got banned and why I enjoyed them and why I felt that they're important to keep around despite the issues that some people have with them. This week, I will have a bunch of posts going up with recommendations of reads going up towards Halloween. Starting with today, I'm going to have one that's 5 picture books that I recommend for around Halloween time that have some spooky protagonist, but not necessarily are scary, right? Because they're picture books. They're not meant to horrify kids. They're pretty cute. It's just that, there's some monsters in them, which happens. But, going forward, we're going to get older and older, and then I can sort of start discussing my more personal favorites in the horror genre for kids. Outside of that, that's all I have. If you haven't checked out the blog, or if you care, you just stop in, see what's going on. Gretchen went back to school, so she's pretty overwhelmed. The book club should be happening this coming week. Taylor and I are going to be doing it because Gretchen didn't have a chance to read Tinker Tailor, but we did, and we're going to be discussing it, so that should be happening next week or this week. I'm not positive. It's basically just we both have the free time to do it. And that should be it. I think that is everything coming up. Yeah, so I hope you guys are having lovely weeks, lovely lives. Haven't had a whole bunch of stress because, lots of you, I'm sure, are going back to school, or just in general, it's getting colder. I really love fall and I love Halloween time because I love the spooky things, and now is like a good time for me. But the stress of moving has sort of distracted me from a lot of the enjoyable things of the time that I, usually revel in. But yes, I hope you guys are doing okay. Let me know down below if you guys have read some Stephen King stuff. I know that some folks were reading The Stand, and I haven't had a chance to like watch and check in with you guys on that one. It's definitely one on my to be read list that I have not gone to because of the size. It's always the size, guys. Like, why, Stephen King, do you have to hurt me this way? And why must I be attracted to such large books, despite having an inability to like get through them consistently anymore? Now that I'm doing so much stuff all the time. Yes, I'm rambling now. This is the problem with these long videos and me not being able to edit them, is that I start rambling, and that's just what happens. I'm gonna go. I hope you guys are doing okay. Have a great week. Have a good last little bit of October. Good luck with any reading challenges or anything. Are you guys doing NaNoWriMo? Because next month's NaNoWriMo. So tell me how you're feeling about that stuff. And that's it.